It started with a simple email from an unknown sender, claiming they had something important to share about my family's past, something that would change everything I thought I knew. Little did I realize, opening that message would unravel a thread of terror that had been waiting in the shadows for decades. My name is Alex, and this all began last summer when I was house-sitting for my aunt in her old Victorian home on the outskirts of a small town in upstate New York. The place was beautiful in a faded way. Tall ceilings, creaky wooden floors, and windows that rattled faintly in the wind, even on still nights. My aunt had inherited it from her parents, and she'd always spoken of it fondly. But there was something about the house that felt watchful, like the walls held memories they weren't ready to forget. I was there alone for 2 weeks while she visited relatives abroad. No pets, no neighbors close by, just me, my laptop, and the endless quiet of the countryside. The first few days were peaceful. I'd work remotely during the day, editing articles for an online magazine, and in the evenings, I'd wander the rooms, admiring the antique furniture and the faded photographs on the mantel. One picture in particular caught my eye, a black and white shot of my great-grandparents standing in front of the house, their expressions stern, almost guarded. Behind them, the windows seemed darker than they should be, as if something was pressing against the glass from inside. On the third night, I couldn't sleep. The heat was oppressive, even with the windows cracked open, and the air felt thick, clinging to my skin like damp cloth. I tossed in the guest bed, listening to the distant hum of crickets outside. Around 2 a.m., I heard it, a soft thump from downstairs like a book falling off a shelf. I froze, my heart picking up pace. The house was old. Settling sounds were normal, right? But this felt deliberate, too rhythmic. Thump, pause, thump. I sat up, straining my ears. Silence followed, broken only by the faint tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway. Telling myself it was nothing, I lay back down, but sleep wouldn't come. Instead, I grabbed my phone and scrolled through emails to distract myself. That's when I saw the new message in my inbox, time-stamped just minutes earlier. Subject: the truth about your family's house. The sender was anonymous, some generic address like watcher1923anonymousmail.com. Curiosity overrode caution. I opened it. The body was short. Alex, you've returned to the house. Do you feel it yet? The eyes in the walls? Your great-grandfather built more than a home. He built a prison. Check the attic, but be careful what you let out. A chill ran down my spine, colder than the night air. How did they know my name? How did they know I was here? I glanced at the window, half expecting to see a face peering in, but there was only darkness. I replied quickly, "Who is this? How do you know about me?" But the email bounced back, undeliverable. Unease settled in my gut like a stone. The attic? I'd never been up there. My aunt had mentioned it was full of junk and locked the door years ago after a raccoon infestation. But now, the email gnawed at me. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was a prank, maybe from a friend who'd heard I was staying here. By morning, the incident felt silly and the sunlight streaming through the kitchen windows. I made coffee, the rich aroma grounding me, and decided to forget about it. But that evening, as dusk fell and the house grew dim, the thumping returned. This time it was clearer, coming from above, directly overhead in the attic. Thump, thump, like footsteps pacing slowly across the floorboards. My skin prickled with goosebumps, the air suddenly cooler, as if a draft had slipped in. I stood at the base of the stairs leading up, staring at the locked door. The key was on a hook in the kitchen, my aunt had said, for emergencies. Was this an emergency? My mind raced. Maybe an animal had gotten in again, or perhaps the wind was playing tricks. But the email's words echoed. The eyes in the walls. I grabbed the key, my hand trembling slightly, and climbed the narrow stairs. The wood creaked under my weight, each step amplifying the silence above. At the door, I hesitated, listening. Nothing. Just the faint rustle of leaves outside. The lock turned with a rusty click and I pushed the door open. A wave of musty air hit me, thick with dust and the faint scent of old paper. I flicked on my phone's flashlight, sweeping the beam across the space. Boxes stacked haphazardly, covered in sheets yellowed with age. An old dresser in the corner, a cracked mirror reflecting distorted fragments of the room. No signs of animals, no droppings, no nests. But as I stepped further in, something caught my eye. A small leather-bound journal wedged between two boxes, its cover embossed with the year 1923. I picked it up, the leather cool and supple under my fingers. Flipping it open, I saw handwritten entries in faded ink, my great-grandfather's diary. The first pages were mundane, notes on building the house, arguments with contractors, pride in the sturdy foundation. But as I read on, the tone shifted. "The workers speak of shadows in the basement," one entry read. "They say the land is cursed, that something was disturbed when we dug the cellar. Nonsense, but tonight I heard whispering through the vents, voices too low to understand." My breath caught. Whispering? I glanced around the attic, the beam of light trembling. The temperature had dropped noticeably, my arms prickling with cold. Another entry, dated weeks later. "I see them now, eyes in the walls watching. They want out. I've boarded up the cellar door, but it's not enough. The house, it's alive with them." Them? What was he talking about? I turned the page, but it was blank. No, not blank. Torn out, jagged edges remaining. As I closed the journal, a soft scrape echoed from below, like nails dragging across wood. Not from the attic, from downstairs. Heart pounding, I hurried back down, locking the attic door behind me. The house felt different now, the shadows longer, the air heavier. I checked the doors and windows, all locked. But as I passed the living room, I noticed the photograph on the mantel had changed. Or had it? My great-grandparents still stood there. But now, their eyes seemed to follow me, a subtle shift in the light making their gazes piercing. That night, sleep was impossible. I lay in bed, the journal beside me, listening to the house breathe. Around midnight, the thumping resumed, but closer, under the floorboards this time, and then faintly, whispering. Indistinct at first, like wind through cracks, but growing clearer. "Let us out. Alex! Let us out!" I bolted upright, sweat beading on my forehead despite the chill. The voices were coming from the vents, echoing softly through the room. They knew my name. Panic surged through me, my pulse thundering in my ears. I grabbed my phone to call someone, anyone, but the signal was gone. No bars, no Wi-Fi. The email app showed a new message from the same sender. "You found the journal. Good. Now open the cellar. They miss you." The cellar. I'd forgotten about it. Accessed through a door in the kitchen, padlocked and covered in dust. My aunt had warned me not to go down there. "It's unstable," she'd said. But now the whispering grew insistent, a chorus of murmurs slithering through the air ducts. "Family. Blood. Release us." Trembling, I made my way to the kitchen, the floor cold under my bare feet. The padlock key was in a drawer, rusted but functional. As I unlocked the door, a dank breeze wafted up, carrying the smell of earth and decay. Stairs descended into blackness, my flashlight revealing cobwebs and crumbling stone walls. At the bottom, the cellar was empty, just bare dirt floor and shelves lined with forgotten jars. But in the center, a loose flagstone caught my eye, slightly askew. The whispering was louder here, vibrating through the ground. "Dig! Dig!" Against every instinct, I pried the stone up with a nearby crowbar. Beneath it, a small wooden box, etched with strange symbols. Inside, yellowed letters, photographs of people I didn't recognize, faces twisted in fear, and a final note from my great-grandfather. "I trapped them here, the spirits of those wronged on this land. But blood calls to blood. If you're reading this, it's too late. They've chosen you. As I read, the lights flickered overhead, plunging the cellar into darkness. The whispering erupted into a cacophony, voices overlapping in agony and rage. Hands, cold, invisible, brushed my skin, tugging at my clothes. I scrambled up the stairs, slamming the door, but the house shook, pictures crashing from walls. I fled to my car, driving through the night, the rearview mirror showing shadows shifting in the back seat. My aunt returned early, but when I told her, she just smiled sadly. "The house has always been like that," she said. "Why do you think I left?" Even now, miles away, I hear the whispers in quiet moments. They're patient, waiting for me to come home. That was the first story, but trust me, it gets worse. The second one happened to a friend of mine, and it's the kind that makes you question every reflection you see. I never believed in doppelgangers until the day I saw myself standing across the street, staring back with eyes that weren't quite right. It was a rainy afternoon in Seattle, the kind where the sky hangs low and gray and the pavement gleams like oil. My name is Sarah, and I was on my way home from work, umbrella in hand, weaving through the crowd. The city was alive with the patter of rain and the distant honk of traffic. But something felt off. A prickling at the back of my neck like being watched. I glanced up and there he was. Me, or rather someone who looked exactly like me, down to the blue coat and the scar on my left cheek from a childhood accident. He stood motionless under an awning, rain dripping around him, his gaze locked on mine. But his expression was wrong, blank, almost hungry. I froze, a chill seeping through my wet clothes. People bustled past, oblivious. When I blinked, he was gone, vanished into the throng. I told myself it was a coincidence, a look-alike in a city of millions. But that night in my apartment, the unease lingered. The air felt stale, the hum of the fridge too loud in the silence. The next day, it happened again. I was in a coffee shop, the warm scent of espresso grounding me when I looked out the window. There he was, across the street, mimicking my posture, hand on hip, head tilted. This time he smiled, a slow curl of lips that didn't reach his eyes. My heart raced, coffee turning bitter in my mouth. I rushed outside, but he melted into the crowd. Paranoia set in. I started noticing details. A shadow in the mirror that moved a fraction too slow. A reflection in a puddle that lingered after I'd walked away. At work, colleagues commented on how tired I looked, but I couldn't explain the sleepless nights, the constant feeling of eyes on me. One evening, returning home, I found my door ajar. The lock was intact, no signs of forced entry. Inside, everything was as I'd left it, except for the bathroom mirror, written in condensation, as if someone had breathed on it. Closer now. Terror gripped me, my skin crawling with invisible insects. I called the police, but they found nothing. No fingerprints, no evidence. Probably a prank, they said. But that night, as I lay in bed, the temperature plummeted, breath fogging in the air. A creak from the hallway, soft footsteps approaching. I sat up, phone in hand, when the bedroom door eased open. There, silhouetted in the dim light, was myself, standing there watching. His eyes gleamed unnaturally, and when he spoke, it was my voice, but hollow. "I've been waiting to come home," I screamed, lunging for the light. But he was gone. Or was he? Now every mirror shows a subtle difference, a twitch, a glare. He's getting better at pretending. Soon I won't know which one is me. The third story is even more unsettling because it involves something we all take for granted, our phones. It began with a wrong number call at 3 a.m., a voice on the line whispering my full name before hanging up. I dismissed it as a glitch. But then the texts started, messages from my own number, predicting things only I could know. I'm Jake, and this unfolded over a single week last fall. I was living in a high-rise in Chicago, the city lights twinkling below like distant stars. The first text came during lunch. "Don't take the elevator today. Stairs are safer." I laughed it off, but when the elevator malfunctioned that afternoon, stranding people between floors, a knot formed in my stomach. More texts followed. "Your boss will cancel the meeting. Prepare for bad news." Sure enough, he did, announcing layoffs. The sender was listed as me. How? I checked my phone logs. No outgoing messages. The air in my apartment grew stuffy, the usual city noise muffled, as if the world was holding its breath. By day 3, the predictions turned personal. "She'll say yes to dinner, but watch her eyes. She's lying." I had a date that night. She did say yes, but her gaze darted away when I asked about her past. Coincidence? The texts escalated. "Lock your doors tonight, someone's coming." That night I double-checked everything, the click of locks echoing in the quiet. But at midnight, a knock, soft, insistent. Through the peephole, no one. Yet the text arrived. "I'm already inside." Panic surged, my hands slick with sweat. I searched the apartment, finding nothing. But in the bedroom, my phone on the nightstand buzzed with a voicemail. From myself. "You can't hide from what you are." The voice was mine, but laced with something dark, knowing secrets I'd buried deep. The temperature dropped, shadows pooling in corners like ink. I smashed the phone, but the whispers continued. In my head now, predicting my every fear. I haven't slept since. Every reflection, every echo reminds me. It's still calling. And the fourth, the most terrifying, because it's about the one place you should feel safe. Your own mind. I woke up one morning with a stranger's memories in my head. Flashes of a life not mine, violent and wrong. At first I thought it was a dream, but the details were too vivid, the guilt too real. Call me Emily. It started subtly, in a quiet suburb where the grass was always manicured and the nights peaceful. I'd see a face in my mind, a woman I didn't know, screaming, and feel the echo of her pain in my chest. The air would turn cold, my skin tingling as if touched by unseen fingers. Doctors called it stress, but the memories grew. Hands around a throat, the warmth of blood. Not mine, but I felt them as if they were. Nights became torment, the house creaking with phantom steps, whispers urging me to finish it. One day, I found a news article online about a missing person matching the face in my head. The suspect? Someone who looked just like me from a town I'd never visited. The realization hit like ice water. Someone else's thoughts had slipped into mine, or worse, I was slipping into theirs. The boundary blurred, and now in quiet moments I wonder, whose hands are these? Whose horrors am I living? These stories stay with you, don't they? Because deep down we know the real terror isn't monsters, it's the unknown lurking in the familiar. Sleep tight.